What's up, everybody? Doing something a little bit different today. We're not sure if it's going to work or not. We're out on the horses this morning. We'll see how they cooperate. We're taking a little break in the shade, but we want to take some time and talk about labels. And this is definitely something that we've learned more about as we've researched things and even looked at things for our own diets. But one thing that we've learned is that labels can be extremely misleading. So we're going to talk through a few of the main ones and kind of some characteristics of those, hopefully to kind of give you a better idea of what you're looking at when you get to the grocery store and understand maybe what different people are trying to sell you. All right, so start off with Emily. I guess let's talk about maybe just your mainstream, regular, commercially raised chicken. All right, and this can go for not only meat chickens, but eggs as well. So do you want to tell them commercially?
Sure. So probably 99.9% of chicken that you find in the store, and eggs for that matter, are raised in factory farms, which means that they're raised in confinement. So for meat chickens, they're typically raised indoors in kind of a warehouse structure. They're packed in there where there's, hundreds of thousands of birds in the same building. And so there's no access to the outdoors. They're living in their own feces. They're breathing in that particulate matter from their feces. It's a very, very dirty and inhumane environment. Oftentimes they debeak the birds and declaw them because they're in such close proximity to one another. They'll peck at each other and potentially kill each other. That's why there's a need for antibiotics, because they're living in such filth. And then with commercially raised eggs, they're usually in cages. So there's usually about 10 hens per cage. Each hen has about an iPad size of space that they're able to live in throughout their entire life. And again, they're also debeaked and declawed as well.
Yeah, and even just to add a couple things to that, in terms of space, especially for the egg layers and raised in cages, there's not enough room for them to even flap their wings. So they're in confinement, most of the time debeaked, declawed. All they do is sit and lay eggs all day long.
And there's cages on top of cages on top of cages. So
right, so they're just getting pooped on all day while they're eating.
Exactly.
Also too, and Emily mentioned it, the reason why antibiotics has been, like the antibiotic free has become a big slogan, is because commercial farms, like Emily said, when you raise chickens all on top of each other, so they're standing there in poop, feces, filth, antibiotic on top of antibiotic on top of antibiotic has to be used to even keep these birds alive. So without confinement, there would be no need for antibiotics. Also too, this past spring, a farm in South Carolina, is a turkey farm in South Carolina, had to totally kill its entire flock in their turkey houses because of bird flu spread. And that is a very common occurrence, not only within poultry confinement, but any type of animal confinement raising.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's raising animals in confinement like that, creates a need for antibiotics, and that's one of the biggest causes of antibiotic resistance. I mentioned that in one of our other videos. And this is kind of a topic for another time, but I think something like 75% of all the pharmaceuticals in the world are used in raising animals, which is kind of scary.
So there you go. Anything else in terms of confinement, regular, commercial?
I don't think so.
All right. Then the next, I guess, most popular would be cage-free or free range. Are those those are two, they're both a little bit different. Which one you want to do first?
We can start with cage-free.
Okay.
So,
Because that's usually with eggs.
right. So if you see the term cage-free on meat chickens, on the actual meat, it's basically meaningless because meat chickens are not typically raised in cages. Like I said, they're usually raised indoors in like a warehouse. So again, that can be very misleading where they're trying to make it sound like they're raising the animals in a more humane way when in actuality there's absolutely no difference. So for eggs, like I said, they're usually raised in cages. So the term cage-free can be really misleading because again, it makes you think that you're buying a product that was raised in a healthier, more humane way, when actuality all that means is they're typically still raised indoors, raised in confinement, among hundreds of thousands of other birds in very unclean conditions. So just because they're not raised in cages doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthier. Now free range, you can see that on either egg or chicken labels. And the USDA regulations around that are very, very loose. So basically all it means is that they have, quote, access to the outdoors, which oftentimes is just a tiny little door in this huge warehouse that they technically have access to, but likely aren't even going to be able to find or use. Sometimes it's just a hole that they can stick their head through. And that counts as access to the outdoors. So even though, when we hear the word free range, it conjures up these images of chickens out on this green, beautiful pasture, able to run around and eat insects and worms. And but in actuality, that's not the case. They're usually still raised indoors in confinement with a small door or a hole that they have access to.
Yeah, and I'll add a couple things to that too. When you go to the grocery store, especially, and see free range on an egg carton, you're probably seeing exactly what Emily's talking about. Now, if you go to a farmer's market where small farmers, they label things as free range, there's a pretty good chance that some of those eggs are free range. So I would be much more inclined to trust eggs, specifically that you buy at a farmer's market, than the labels at the store. Also too, Emily mentioned some misleading lingo, and something that's pretty typical that you see on any package is, especially with food, again, to try to trick you into making you think that it was raised humanely in a good way, is you see the term all natural. Well, of course it's all natural. I mean, it's real. There's not an unnatural bird out there that I'm aware of yet. So of course it's a natural bird. It is natural. So again, don't let those things fool you into making you think that it's actually good for you or raised in a good way. Another term you'll see is like hormone free, which it is against the law to give chickens any type of hormone anyway. The USDA regulates that. So when they put hormone free on egg cartons or on chickens, of course it's hormone free because they can't give it to them. It's against the law. So don't let, again, lingo like that to try to make things seem all natural, healthier, trick you into think it was, the bird was actually raised, out on green grass, fresh water, living the best life. Did I miss any other little lingo terms like that?
Yeah, another thing you'll see on particularly labels for chicken is, which this just cracks me up, is vegetarian fed, which is kind of ridiculous because chickens are not vegetarians, they're omnivores. They need natural protein like insects and worms, and so for them to be fed at all their vegetarian diet is actually very unnatural and not healthy. And then do you want to talk about organic?
Yeah, especially with meat chickens and laying hens, organic really just tends to the type of feed that they're getting. They're getting an organic feed, which is awesome, which is great. But that doesn't mean that the bird itself was raised in a organic or natural way. They can be raised in a confinement house with thousands of other birds pumped with full of antibiotics and still receive organic feed and be labeled organic. So typically I would always tell somebody to lean towards looking at organic, whether it's foods, vegetables, anything like that. But especially when it comes to meat chickens and other animals, you just may want to check into that just a little bit more. Is that what you want me to?
Yeah, and I would just say, to kind of sum everything up, is that, you know, pasture raised is the gold standard. We preach that on all of our videos. And that's the way that we raise all of our animals. That's what we believe in. But I'll also say that there are no USDA regulations around that either. So I would just say, look for pasture-raised products, but also buy them from, you know, local farmers where you can go out to their farm and see how they're raising their animals. Because there's always going to be people that try to cheat the system and make something sound better than it actually is. So just make sure you know what you're buying.
Yep, and I'm sure you've seen throughout this video, I'm putting in pictures so you can actually see these different types of environments that chickens are in along the way. So if you need to go back and check any of those out, and I want to encourage you, again, like we've done in the past, do your own research as well. We've taken the time to kind of look through to help guide us in the decisions we make in terms of food and how we raise animals, but I encourage you to do the same thing as well. But labels, don't trust them all the time. There's always government loopholes, which I'm sure all of us can recognize and agree with. So do your homework. Do your homework when it comes to your food, the things that you're putting into your body, and ultimately, you'll be the one that benefits from it the most, obviously. Anything else?
Can't think of anything.
All right, well, the horses hung in there. Chica did good. I think they're just happy to be rested in the shade for a little bit, because even though it's, it's probably 10 o'clock, 10:30, it is hot and muggy and miserable. And yeah, I'm about done with it. So make sure, leave us some comments if you have anything else that you would like to add about labels, especially if there's stuff that we missed, things that we could learn. Make sure you comment, like, share it, and probably here soon we're going to start the first round of, we're going to start processing some of our chickens this weekend, and we'll be processing some birds, more birds over the next week and a half. So we'll show you some of that along the way. We still have, I believe, at this moment, about 8 more birds available. If you'd like to buy one, you can go to the Refuge Farm Instagram page, click on the link for pastured chicken. You can also go to our Facebook page. There's links there. So make sure you check us out.
We'll see you next time.
Until next time, be good.